Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Michelle's Opinions. Today we have Toni with us, and she's been experiencing dogs, but she's been experiencing a phenomena that a lot of us are just now coming into. It's just now coming into our awareness. So she's going to run and put her dog out real quick, and then hopefully I can pull the chat up where I can actually see and interact with you guys. I just hate being blind, but it won't be for long. He ordered the little laptop, little micro laptop, so I will be able to see everybody and answer questions and stuff like that. But she's been dealing with the skin changes and the physical changes for a very long time. And, you know, as I was just saying, that a lot of us, this is just coming into our awareness. So I'm going to hand it over to her to tell you a little bit about herself, when she started noticing these things, and remove the fear from all of this that's going on, because there's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a natural process. Toni?
Hey everyone. It's great to see you guys. Thanks, Michelle, for having me on. It's super cool that we can come together in this kind of a forum. So let's just talk. Yeah, you might hear some dogs in the background. I try to put them in their kennels. Anytime somebody walks by, though, they get a little barky. So let's just start. So a lot of people are starting to notice, well, obviously the sparkly skin. That's where we start with that. That, however, is being, let me put on the back burner, because that's pretty. A lot of people see the sparkly skin and that doesn't bother them. They're like, that's pretty, that's not an issue. What a lot of people are starting to notice, though, is the purging and detoxing phase that comes before that a little bit, or during that. And so you might start to see some really interesting things come out of your skin. I have a lot of people writing me right now discussing the black specks that are rising to the surface of their skin. So we could maybe start there. In fact, I just had a really good question from one of my viewers the other day. Sorry, I'm trying to catch my breath. I was literally catching dogs midair and throwing them at the kennel. Yeah, I'm watching my mom's dog for a month because they're in Arizona. My mom just went to Phoenix, which is now flooding. So I think she took all the rain from Bellingham with her. It's so funny. But yeah, so once I just had a question from a viewer though, asking, my skin feels drier than normal, feels very, very dry. The lines seem more etched than they usually do. And I'm seeing all these black specks pop up to the surface of my skin. Is this normal? What's happening? It's freaking me out a little bit. And so to put everybody's fears at ease, that is the carbon. As we change, is the earth is ascending, so are we. You know, we are kind of like fleas on the earth to some extent. I mean, that's a crude analogy, but that's kind of the way it works. So as the earth changes in frequency, we do as well. We have to lose density in that. So as we do that, we are these little black specks that you will see is carbon. Now, as I tell people, carbon equals 666. 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. So part of what has been put in prophecy for us to find these little messages, these coded messages, is for us to understand that that is part of the process we need to go through to become the higher selves that we can be. And we're not going to turn into complete light beings. I think there is a misunderstanding that a lot of people think that we're going to turn in these at some point, yes, but for now we're being given the opportunity to have our physical encompass this merging of our soul and our light bodies within the physical. We're not going to lose our physical bodies in completion at this time. This is going to take quite a while for us to go through this. Now, when their event happens, that could change, but as it stands right now, most people will be starting to see these black specks rise up to the top of their skin, and that is totally normal. That is the carbon, and that's okay, because what we're doing is we're replacing that with the photonic light. You could say adamantite particles, divine particles, the sparkles, the geometric fractals, whatever you want to word that. Everybody has a different term for it. But as you see these carbon black specks rise up, that's good, because it needs to be purged from your system, because we have to change in density. So you'll see those replaced with what we call the sparkles, or the light, the photonic light pieces. So don't freak out about that. That's okay.
Okay. Let's. I'm getting feedback. Are you guys in the audience here in the feedback loop?
So I can adjust if I need to.
It stopped.
Okay.
Sometimes Google does that. It'll just mess with our mind. Okay. Can we start from, okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been going through this? Like, I know it's been much longer than the rest of us, and did it start with the sparkles under your skin? I mean, what are we looking at here on as for a time frame from your history in this?
So mine started a little bit differently than probably some other people's. A lot of us had what I call an NDE, or some sort of medical crisis that brought a lot of this to the forefront in a very rapid, accelerated way, is what I would say. Mine started with rashes. I started with getting just really itchy at night, and then started experiencing a lot of rashes that seemed unusual, to put it mildly. The first time that I noticed it, it kind of felt like I had walked into I was cleaning the washing machine. This is not something I've actually told a lot of people, so this is a little insight, but I was cleaning the washing machine out because I had ferrets at the time. And I had noticed that a lot of the animals that I was seeing, not only in my house, but I live in the country, and a lot of the wild animals I was seeing had a lot of patches of hair missing. They were all itching. They were all going through this weird adjustment that I had in 43 years of living up here, had never seen. I'd never seen all of the wild animals acting in the same way, missing patches of hair, itching in the middle of the day, and coming out extra thirstier than they had ever been. Usually, animals that I would see at night were coming out in the day to get water. Everybody was extra thirsty. Everybody was experiencing these same symptoms.
Speaking of which.
And so, I was cleaning up the washing machine.
Not beer, guys.
And the washing machine was full of ferret hair, because my ferrets were losing an abnormal amount of hair, which was not on season. They were off season. And so when I did that, it felt literally like, as I was cleaning the hair out, it just felt like I got stung in a weird way by a lot of, I don't know. It was an unusual feeling. It kind of felt like I was walking through a static field, is how I would put that. Like it was just a static electricity, but at a higher rate than I had ever felt. Not quite on the level of being tased, I would say, obviously, but just a lot of little pinpricks that seemed to penetrate my skin almost. And I've said in several of my videos that the first people who noticed these changes were people who worked with the soil, so people who were working in the ground, and people who worked with animals. Because I think that there is no bias there. They don't have to, the higher light doesn't have to get through that bias. It's just my personal perspective. So once that happened, I started experiencing a lot of rashes. And I remember going in for my surgery, and I tell people I just woke up from my last surgery different, with the ability to see light language and just a whole different activation happening, which at the time I didn't even know what was happening.
Yeah, we're going to get into that too, hopefully.
Right. I lost my mind at that point. But I remember the doctor right before they put me under saying, "Have you experienced any weird rashes?" And I remember looking down at my skin and thinking, I know exactly where these spots were, but I wasn't going to say a word because I needed this last surgery done. I just wanted it to be over at that point. So I bit my tongue and remember thinking, at that point, it was such a pivotal epiphany for me, because I remember thinking, yes, something's happening now, but I had no understanding of what. Does that make sense? And so then when I woke up from that last surgery, everything was different. I just could see differently. I mean, I couldn't focus my eyes to read fine print, which was the immediate symptom that I noticed, because I was still very 3D at that point. But then I started to notice I could see layers and details and things that I had never ever seen before. It looked like hieroglyphics and everything, and it just went from there. But my process really started, I would say, late 2015. So I think everybody, though, has been in process for a large number of years that we didn't even know. If you really go back and look at our lives, I think so many of us could say, oh my gosh, that's probably what this period was. Because there was a number of years that I was at home before that I was sick. And I think that was probably the purging and detoxing phase to a large degree. And there was, a lot of weird medical issues that I had that my doctors couldn't explain. But I think looking back, that was all part of the process. I just didn't realize at the time that it was part of the process. But I think something happened late 2015 that allowed this higher light to come in and really accelerate everything. And so I would say 2015 that I really understood I was in the process till now. It was the extent of it. But mine's been very rapid. And I think that happens. I think everybody has a divine timing. Like, I think we enter into these agreements before we come. We just don't remember. And I think part of my agreement was I would be one of the ones to show this process. Because that was one of the first things that I was told was, you will be one of the first to change and we'll help them. But I didn't have any understanding of what that meant at the time, obviously.
Like before you came, like you had a care package that was already going to be in place at a certain time. If you did not stumble across it already by a certain time, you were going to get that care package. And that's why it came on so rapidly. Because right, exactly. you were probably supposed to stumble across it earlier.
Knowing me, I'm a procrastinator. Yes.
So they're like, okay, all right, enough. Here, get to work, lady.
Kick her in the head a little bit. Right, exactly.
And you had some pretty unusual things actually come out of your skin. And like you said, you guys, we're having this conversation to remove the fear from when these anomalies happen, that you are not afraid of this, because here she is talking about it and being very open, so that way, because everybody has their job, and it's like, it just seems like, and as we come together, and like my motto, share what we know so we can listen and grow, it just really kind of goes together like a puzzle, and we're meant to find each other. We're meant to work together. We're meant to do this, not in a hive mind as an individual, but I got some really wise words this morning. We work from one heart, not from one mind. We're getting different information, different jobs that we do. We all have these amazing gifts, and any gift is available to all. We've had them all our lives, just didn't know it. But then we all work from that one heart, and that's what's going to change this place. Okay, so 2015, static electricity at the dryer, had the surgery, rapid awakening. What was the next thing after the rashes and the itchy, and a lot of us are facing that and have been facing that for a very long time. So when was it that you started seeing larger objects come out of your body?
Yeah, pretty quick. Like really, really quick, to be perfectly honest. I originally went into this, as most people do, in the fear narrative, because when you start looking up these symptoms, and one of the first things that I saw come out of my skin was the filaments, or you could say fibers, or what look like hairs. And when you look that up, that takes you to one place, which is Morgellons, and that was very terrifying for me. I got way into that fear narrative. I thought it was chemtrails, and I was being poisoned and turning into a transhumanistic robot, and that's where most of us start, because that's where the narrative had been. Luckily, now there's people like me and you who have come forward and are trying to change that narrative and say this doesn't have to be something horrifying. But for me, it was very, very early on. I would say it was still late, very early 2016, because my last surgery happened in, I think it was January of 2016. So that last surgery was right away. And then it was, I would say, within the first month or 2 months, I just woke up with this different connection. I mean, I'd always been connected, but there was some drive in me that was compelling me to study whatever was happening to me. Now, I had been a medical researcher for 15 plus years at that point, in a different genre. I'd worked for medical doctors, so I was acutely aware of what was supposed to be normal for human biology and what was not. And I have a medical intuitive ability that I've always had. And I just knew that what I was seeing needed to be documented. And I remember I would sit in the bathroom and cry because my back would hurt so bad, because it was so microscopic originally, and I had to use special apps just to get the magnification that I needed to see what was being shown. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will miss so much of what comes out of their skin because it's very, very small, mm-hmm. and it's meant to blend in, because this divine process is not supposed to
shake your clothes when you take them off, right? and you can see that, right? You can see the flecks of glittery, yeah. I have a question here. Was it like threads that were coming out from old surgical procedures you had, like where an incision may have been? Because no. I had surgery when I was 15, but I had it was like a purplish blue thread come out. But I mean, I was 15 when I had this surgery, but it came out by where my scar is, like, and something was being pushed out there. And I'm telling you, that wasn't, like yesterday. That was quite a long time ago for me. But that has happened in the last couple of years. And I just chalked it up to an incision that was, or a suture that didn't dissolve or whatever like it was supposed to. So my body pushed it out.
Now, that could be. I think that's fascinating, because I've not actually had anybody bring that to my attention. So that could be. That absolutely could be part of it. The threads or the filaments that I'm referring to, however, are exactly what Morgellons people say. And that's the only word that I have for it. I say light body. Some people say Morgellons. I say it's light body. So
it wasn't tiny. I could see it. I mean, like I could pull on it, tug on it, and it was not comfortable to tug on. So
I bet.
I just let it come out naturally.
I think that is part of it. I do think that we, during this phase, I think we purge anything that is not in our physical best and highest good. And we don't need those surgical threads anymore. So I think it is entirely possible that you will purge anything in your system that is not in line with your crystalline DNA, because we just don't need that stuff anymore. The ones that I saw were the exact ones people did: black, red, blue, or translucent. Now, in the very beginning, I saw so many black ones, it wasn't funny. And they're a different texture than a hair. And I've actually showed these under filters, and then you can actually see that they're doing something. They're active in a particular way. I say they're light encoded plasmas, which carry information, is what I say. Mm-hmm. And they, I believe that in the beginning you'll see a lot of black ones come out, and then as the process continues, mostly I just see translucent ones now. And a lot of reds. In the beginning, I saw almost no reds, and mostly black, and now I see almost all translucent and a few reds. But in the very beginning, they were all black, and they almost seem like a typurighter ribbon. I don't know, that really ages us, doesn't it, when I talk?
Come on, don't do that. Stop that. We're looking younger. We're reverse aging.
Right. But the texture is it's like a crimped, that also ages us, right? Like when girls used to crimp their hair.
Yes,
but it's like
stop it.
Yeah, I know, right? A crimped texture versus what you would see normally with a hair. It's just a completely different texture. But when you put them under these filters of negative, I just use very simplistic things, and I tell everybody how I do it so everybody can do it, because I want everybody to be able to see these things. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to be a mystery. And so I just used a negative filter, but you could see there is actually something happening within these strands. They are carrying some sort of information, is what I would say, that is light interactive. And what's really fascinating is I talked to a few people who are keepers of the crystal skulls after they saw some of my information. And when the crystal skulls started to be analyzed, these same light encoded plasma filaments are all over in those crystal skulls. And they actually, under high photonic light, show holographic images. So I think that's highly fascinating. That's where I started to put some of these pieces of the puzzle together, going, this is so much bigger than somebody spraying something on us with chemtrails. This is something so much bigger than I knew at that point. Then I also was led to Escocaris, ESCARCHAS, or God's Glitter, as the English translation. And this has been going on for as long as we have records, people having these sparkles, or what looks like people who were devoutly worshiping, or objects that were devoutly worshipped, that have this exact same stuff that I show, what look like these geometric fractals, and these pieces of gold and silver, and all of these things. In monasteries, they have these in plexiglass. They've held on to it because it's such an important thing for them to give confirmation that there's something happening to people who are really in touch and really in connection with their higher self. And so that was the first time for me that I went, this is divine. This is not something I need to be scared of. And once I changed my perception, in the very beginning, I was terrified. And when I was terrified, I think Lisa Transcendence Brown just did an interview with somebody, I want to say it was yesterday or the day before. And she said something that I thought was pivotal. And she said, our soul is photonic. It is quantum. It is this higher photonic light. And so for me, that was the first time, though, that I was able to go, this is divine. This is not something that this narrative is forced down my throat. But when I changed my perception, it changed. And what she said was exactly what I say all the time. It interacts with your consciousness. So if you think you're sick, you're going to be sick. And I have a lot of documentation of stuff that came out of me that looked like a sci-fi horror show. I mean, it looked parasitic, it looked horrific, but the day I claimed my sovereignty and changed.
I looked at one of your videos. It looked to me like circuitry from a computer.
Circuitry, exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah.
Both there was, and when you flipped it, you could like see it, you had it really zoomed in, and at one side it was one color, and then you flipped it and you could see like the circuit lines in it. It's very interesting. And you guys, as you guys know, I repeat this all the time though, her channel information and everything is in the show more notes, so I recommend that you go over and check out some of the things that she has managed to capture. Absolutely amazing and very informative. And like I said, this is to remove fear if anybody's going through anything like this, because for a lot of us, we go through things in different stages, different steps. So she's talking about it, and my goodness, are we grateful. I mean, I'm all ears here, learning and listening with everybody else. So proceed.
You're so sweet. I would say if anybody really wants to see probably one of the most informative on what you might see come out of your skin. Now, like you said, not everybody's going to see these exact same symptoms in the same magnitude that I might have. Everybody's going to have their own divine process in their own unique way. I just have a ability to catch it, I think, because it's my process to bring it forward. But the video that I put out, We Are Quantum, Are You Ready to See, will show you the most interesting things that I purged from my system. And I kept that back for about a year, I want to say. I worked on that a little bit here and there for a year, but I just felt like in the beginning it would freak people out too much. But what you're saying is exactly true. It looks like circuitry. And it took me a couple of videos where I show the process under the skin. I use a negative filter, and it looks like when you look at the sparkles under the skin, I'm in the dark, so I just use a flash and a negative filter. Anybody can do this. Look at your palms. You might need magnification in the beginning, but what you'll see is it looks like a little quantum computer. Like you can tell they're active. You can tell they're doing something. You can tell they're working. And what was the most fascinating to me is one of the first videos I did of that. And it was a surprise to me, as it was everybody else. You can tell by the profanity in the video, because I got so caught off guard. And so what I noticed, though, was that it responded to my, there was some profanity. I responded to my words and my thoughts. And so you see, I stop and start the process I think it's 4 times technically, on film. Just by my words and thoughts. I actually say I'm going to stop it, and then I say I'm going to start it. And then you can see how those little dots start working again. And that's when I went, yeah. Yeah, that's when I went, we have control. This is about us realizing we are in power, that we have this control, that we don't have to give that power away to somebody else. And I think that's why so many, you could say beings, for people who really aren't there yet, that's okay. There are other things out there than just us. And that's why they're so fascinated to see what we do with this. They're waiting to see. It's kind of like, I think, when you have a child and you're teaching them to ride a bike, and then you take those training wheels off and you're holding your breath to see if they're going to crash or if they're going to really get it. And I think that's kind of what they're all doing right now. They're like, are they going to take their power back and realize they can ride this, and that they don't have to give this power away and create their own prisons? Because that's kind of what we've been brainwashed into doing. Yeah.
Heavily programmed.
Heavily.
Yes, and we're like breaking out of the program and becoming the programmer, and that's a huge step. And yeah, you're right. There's so many pitfalls. There's so many traps. And just, when you think you've overcome one and you've been set free, they send like an army of hive mind after you to attack you and do whatever they can to stop you dead in your tracks. But it's okay. I mean, we've got to press on. I think that there was a problem with notifications going out on this stream. I'm going to ask, did anybody in the chat room, did you guys get a notification that we were coming on live? Because I actually posted it up this morning, probably about 10 or 11 o'clock this morning, so there should have been ample time. And I have it set up to give a 1-hour reminder notification to everybody who is subscribed. But I did happen to go by, and somebody said they didn't even get a notification. So, right. YouTube is another one of those things that it's a game. It's one of those programs. And we have to, become the programmer of that also. Right. We got to learn how to play some of these games in order to master them, to overcome them, so they don't tear us down. It's kind of like that. Yeah. So I just noticed that. So if anybody, if you guys could let me know if you did get the notification or not, just say a simple, yes, I got the notification, or no, I did not. So then we'll know. Okay. Now I saw the ones that look like I said, like the electrical. What else has been going on within body changes besides, with the skin changing? Have you noticed any of the internal organs going, any other physical symptoms or ascension symptoms you want to talk about?
Sure, there's so much. It's like, where do we start? In the beginning, I kept so much of this private because I just was terrified. When I first came forward, people were so freaked out by what I was showing. I mean, we had heard in our genre, we'd heard for years, I mean, about people talking about this process. But no, I think Lisa Transcendence Brown had put out like a 29-second video of her crystalline stuff sparkling. But I was so hard pressed to be able to find anybody else actually showing it. And so when I came forward, people were so freaked out just by the sparkles. And I thought, those are pretty. Wait till you see what, wait till you see some of this other stuff. And like you said, it looks like computer circuits. What are people going to do with that? So I held on to a lot of the other changes, like skeletal changes. So many people have written to me now. Now I have people writing me from every country almost across the world. And it's all the same stuff. Like there is too many of us that don't know each other, that are saying the same exact thing, that are seeing the same exact things. It's not just, I mean, come on, it can't be coincidence. But skeletal, people are feeling.
No, that's called confirmation.
Exactly. People are feeling their skeletal actual physiology change. So I started to feel like when my high heart, I think mine had always been open to some degree, but when it really kicked in, I would feel like my heart was racing, but I felt like it was racing on the right side, not the left. It was the most insane feeling ever. I could literally feel it beating on the right side of my heart, body, not the left. It was very, very interesting. So I have a lot of people discussing that it's in the center now. Maybe I also felt like my ribs had changed in their skeletal formation. Like I would bend down just right, and I would feel like there was this new lower, I don't know how to say that exactly. I don't think I've even said this publicly, but this new lower area that would almost catch on things if I just didn't rise just right. But it was different than anything I'd ever felt before. I also feel, I just said this in one of my last live streams, which I had not said publicly before either. And I've had so many people write me saying, oh, I'm so glad you said that because that is my experience. I swear it feels almost like I have wings. Like something's going on back here in the shoulder.
And shoulder blades. Like that is where our wings are supposed to be. Like we had wings before and yeah. Okay. Continue.
There is a weird feeling. It's like I find myself doing like kind of this shoulder movement all the time. It just feels like something is happening back here under the skin. And it's funny because my psychic gal, who I see once a year, has said to me every time I come in, she said, you really do have wings. I forget until I see you that you have wings. You have these amazing like giant wings, and they also offer you protection. But I think a lot of us, and I've been told the new human might have wings, so I don't know. Like we'll see what happens with that. I've also have a lot of people discussing the heart palpitations. So they're feeling that just almost anxiety attack at times. It's like there weren't, and people who never really had anxiety attacks are feeling this like, oh my gosh, that these intense moments. And so I think those happen, they coincide a lot with the energy waves. So that's totally normal. A lot of people are feeling that this weird energy at the top of their head, almost like there's, I don't want to say strings attached, but this, like you can almost feel this pull at the top, and that's the crown chakra, kind of going in. But these are all things that are being activated within you. And so it's just every person's gonna respond differently. It's gonna be each person's divine process. The skin is just one aspect that I focus on, but you will also experience abilities coming online that you didn't really know you had. And like you said so eloquently, everybody has all these abilities. Nobody's better than anybody else. Please don't anybody think somebody's more advanced or somebody's, everybody has these abilities. It's just that, it's just learning how to access them in the best way for you at that time. So just know that you're not doing it wrong if you feel stuck.
And to not fear them.
Exactly. And it takes time, because all of a sudden, here's a really, really great confirmation. I'm not going to use her name, but she's a good friend of mine now, and she's a nurse. And I had said to my doctor when I went in, are you starting to see people with blurry eyes, feeling like their eyesight is changing, or that they're not able to see print as well as they were, but maybe they're starting to say that they see flashes of color out of the corners of their eyes, or they're starting to feel like something's going on with their eyes. Also the itchingness under the skin, the rashes, the ear ringings, the ringing in the ears, the dizziness. And he was like, I am. And then he gave me a funny look and didn't want to talk about it anymore. But this nurse that's a friend, right? This nurse that's a friend of mine, though, just said to me yesterday, we are seeing such a huge increase of numbers of people in that just within the last month or two. Like we can't keep people scheduled. There are so many people coming in the last month or two just saying this ringing in my ears is driving me crazy and my eyes are driving me crazy. And she said they even sent some guy to psych because he was saying that he was seeing auras. And of course the doctor is not going to be like, yeah, you can see auras now. He's not going to say that.
Oh gosh, no. He's going to say padded room, padded room.
Right, psych, here's your referral and here's some have a good day.
Right. And so then that instills fear in people. Then they feel like they have no one to talk to about it. The church doesn't know anything about anything that's going on. They you know, so, and it's just a trip. I mean, I'm trying to think back to when, you know, all of this started and the confusion that I went through, tossed to and fro, and nobody had the answers, and how alone people feel, and how much gratitude to have, you know, when this anomaly showed up on my hands, that I put it out there and then there you were. I mean, it's like, because when this all really went hot and heavy for me, you know, okay, I didn't make videos. I'm going to tell you, I took a long time to start sharing on any of this stuff that's going on. Because, you know, it just sounds, when you say it, it just sounds so crazy. But I have to say, the more of us that are talking about this, the better people are going to feel. And I think the faster they're going to come along on this, because that'll knock that. You're not crazy. Don't fear it. It's natural. Don't fight it. Because when you're fighting it, it's like you are fighting against God Almighty, the divine, the universe itself. And you're going to lose that battle. I mean, you're going to be drug along kicking and screaming. But why not go with the flow and just understand it? And because then it's that much smoother, that much easier on you. And you just kind of flow into it. You know, dreams and visions was the first thing that opened up for me. And they wanted to drug me. They were like, here, take this pill, you know. And, you know, I can astral, and I, you know, see things that happen in the future. And I absolutely love it. But when it first started happening, it scared the bejeebers out of me. I'm like, what's going on? Am I dead? I'm out of my body. I'm looking at myself laying in the bed. What's going on? But we're met where we're at, and then we're brought along. But that was the answer that they had. I'm having night terrors and pop a pill in there. Well, the pill only worked for so long because my mind said it would work, and then it popped right through the pills that I never stopped having the dreams. I just wasn't remembering them. It's like, that's when I figured out we've been doing all this stuff. We just weren't aware of it. It's coming into our awareness. And you're having the physical manifestation and confirmation. You're a living testimonial to what is going on by the physical manifestations that are going on within your body. And that's what is so fascinating and peaceful and can bring so much solace to so many people. So please go on. What else you got going on?
No, I love, because I didn't really know your backstory. So those are the points that I just love hearing, because it's like, I love to know how everybody else kind of got to here too, you know, because I know my story. But what I think is fascinating is there was a video I released. It's probably one of my most controversial videos, and I changed the title, because originally I had the title as Morgellons equals crystalline DNA, and I thought, oh boy, that's going to freak some people out, so I changed it. So does Morgellons equal crystalline DNA? But touches on exactly something that you just said. And now Lisa Renee, this is her, not me. She's so beautiful and wonderful, and if you haven't checked out the Ascension glossary, please do. It's got so much great information in there. But she talks about exactly what you were saying, is we basically, and I believe this was under transposition and how did we get here? Transposition and black goo, which sounds like a scary subject. But what she talks about is we literally have been brainwashed into fighting our parents. We were brainwashed into fighting our spiritual selves and what is brought and why we are what we are. We were literally brainwashed into fighting, letting that within our being. And it's like, how are you scared of what brought you here? You know, what wants your best interest at heart. But that's what happens. She says a much more eloquent way. I talk about it in a much more eloquent way in that video. So please look at that before you just listen to my weird analogy of it right now. But my point is that we literally
weird is the new normal, hon.
Right, that's the truth. we thought our spiritual selves being encompassed in our physical selves, and we are being given this great gift right now, which is we are being given the ability, and like I tell people all the time, this is a free will planet. We don't have to accept this at this time. And so like you said, the people that are fighting it, that is going to get much more uncomfortable and much more uncomfortable in not only physical ways, but their world will crash in around them. Their relationships will crash. Their jobs will crash. Everything will crash because it's trying to elevate you to wake the F up. You know what I mean? It's trying to elevate you to start seeing what you need to see so that you can be your best self. But if you're going to keep your eyes in the sand, that's going to keep making you like claustrophobic. It's going to keep pressing the walls in until you finally have to have some sort of situation that makes you stop and reevaluate what is important and what is not. And really, when it comes down to it, what can we take with us? I've been telling everybody this from the very moment I was born. Love. Love is the only thing we can take with us. Mm-hmm. That is what holds us with other people throughout time, space, whatever. It is those relationships that you form. And so now we're just being able to see it in a physical sense. And I think that there are people like me. I think everybody has a specific task kind of that is here right now. I tell people, like in that same video, we are crystalline. Does Morgellons equal crystalline? But there's a very sensational 8 minutes in the beginning, and it uses clips from The Happening and the movie The Titan. But I think that there are very important clips because it shows all of us that came forward. And here's the great thing that I love about right now. Like you were saying, each of us has this little part that we bring to the surface. Like Allison Coe uses QHHT. There are so many of us. Dolores Cannon have been doing it for decades mm-hmm. before. And they're all saying the same thing. People who don't know each other, that are in different states, that in different countries.
Don't even have any communication with each other.
Exactly. And we're saying the same thing. So we can't all be wrong. But we're all saying there is so much more than what we see with our physical senses. And now is the time. Now is what all the prophecies are all coming true now. Like you can see, check in whatever prophecy you're looking at. The Hopi prophecy, the Revelations, check on all the boxes. But what I was told very specifically is we do not have to go through the Armageddon software. I was told specifically to use the word software. We don't have to go through that. That we were giving a...
And I was given that we don't have to go through that program.
Exactly. Same thing.
Yeah, that's just a different terminology.
Exactly. And It means the same thing. Like we don't have to do that because we are given, I was told, the words I was told was divine dispensation. That so many had reached, you could say the 100th monkey or this elevated state, that we don't have to do that because we can change. Now that we know, we can take the reins and change it. And I think that specific people are given specific tasks. Nobody that is here right now is not supposed to be here. I was told that there were so many millions of beings in line that they actually, one of the most beautiful things they didn't, I just got this message actually a few weeks ago, that one of the most beautiful things they didn't expect to happen was that many of the beings in line stepped aside. They actually said, we want to go and help, but we're going to step aside because there are people behind us that have more experience and would be of more value. We're going to let them go first because they're going to help more. And I was told by the divine that they never expected to see that happen. And that was one of the most beautiful things that just they loved. And so people who had these specific pieces, like maybe me, being able to make a bridge and show this physical thing, because a lot of people will send me videos or try to send me videos and say, I caught it, but all of a sudden it's not showing up on video. I'm so frustrated. And I used to say all the time that I felt like I had a specific ability to be able to kind of make it show. Does that make sense? Like it's so hard to catch. It's almost like Shane had said it when I did Unbiased and on the Fence, and he had said it's almost like you have to have a 5D camera. You know what I mean? Like you almost have to have this specific ability to film this stuff. But for me, it's like I almost like you see me like yelling at it on my videos. A lot of times I'll be like, focus, and then it does. It's like, okay, thank you.
Well, but I did catch it on my second try. I got it. I did a pretty good job. I got that. I mean, it was like, yeah, I got you now.
I think you were always supposed to be able to bring this information forward too. I think there's no mistake. And like you said, you took a lot of time off. I think that it's just part of your process, but you're reaching so many people now, and they need to hear this information, like you were saying, and not be afraid of it. Like trust that this is something beautiful, and it's not something that's going to take your consciousness over. I used to say in the beginning, nothing can take your consciousness over without you allowing it to.
That's right. And I wasn't. Are you kidding? Oh, come on, Toni. Our conscious was taken over.
Yes, I agree.
We're taking it back.
exactly. Because we didn't know. We didn't know we were being hit from every area with frequencies.
Right.
We didn't even know anything was based off frequency. And so now that we know, we take those bits and pieces back. But I used to say all the time, like, just because, let's just say we're all injected with the T virus. This is one of my favorite statements, like from Resident Evil. She didn't mutate to some horrible monster. She used it and became more, and she helps people. And that's what I said I was going to go out like. And so I think that when you work with the energies recognize that in this weird way. I mean, I just think that's the way it works, because for me, I've never been healthier. And I talk to a lot of people who are suffering heavily in that rash phase or the Morgellons, really deep, icky stuff. And I tell them, there's a way to live with this healthy. I've never been healthier. I lost my lupus. I don't have to take any pharmaceuticals. I don't even have allergies anymore. I don't get sick anymore. There has to be something to that, you know? And I would be what people would call late stages Morgellons. I mean, if you scratch anywhere on my body, anywhere, you just scratch with your fingernails, you'll see tons of those filaments or fibers underneath your fingernails. But it doesn't scare me anymore, because I realize that it's part of the process. I realize that's part of what's happening. You know, I have no fear about it. And now I just have abilities that I never had before. I'm more telepathic with my animals. I'm telepathic with people. I feel like I'm manifesting things. I have to be very careful what I think, because, you know.
Yes, keep all your thoughts into captivity. There's a reason for that. There's a reason.
Exactly.
And,
I'm very careful.
What about your skies, Toni? I don't have chemtrails anymore.
I don't either.
They're gone. I've got beautiful blue skies and white puffy clouds. And right before we did this interview, I went outside and I was looking and I saw white fractals everywhere. Just white fractals. And I was like, is it my glasses? Because I wanted to get some sunshine and stand in the grass. Okay, and then I took my glasses off and I could still see all the white fractals. I also saw something going across the sky. And it had no contrail or no trail. And it was just gliding across the sky. Now, I was like, dang, I wish I had my phone with me. I'm sure it was not, it was probably like, what do you call them? Those, they can deliver packages now to, oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. You know, those, everybody's got one, they got cameras on them, those little.
Oh, drones.
Drones, yes. But it was pretty high up in the sky. But but after I took my glasses off, I still seen all of these. It's like this. It was all pixelating. And then as I was walking back to come in to get ready to come on with you, I saw a cloud, and it's beautiful outside. But I saw a cloud, but it had like dark, you know, above it. And so I'm thinking, all right, you know, if something's up there, I'm being watched over right now. Everything's gonna be okay. We're not going to have issues. We had a few technical issues, but still we started on time. So, you know, there's something to all of these different things. I never thought that I would ever say there's a possibility that there's aliens. I would, you know, from my upbringing, I'd be like, it's a demon. It's a demon. But if you think about it, even in the Bible, it says the angels were created, what would that be? That would be...
How would that look?
The aliens. And why do we think that they would look a certain way?
Right.
You know what I mean? We want to put the images on them. We want to put our image. We want to put God in our image. We want to put our image on angels. We want to, but really, when we open up our mind and we broaden our perspective, even with the diversity and the way we look as mankind, we all don't look the same. My goodness, you know? I mean, so why would we think that every species or every creation, I mean, animals, cat don't look like a dog.
Right.
There's different varieties of human beings, or, you know, so of course there could be different, and they're listed in even the scriptures, you know, the cherubim, seraphim, different angels doing different things. Of course they're going to have different looks to them. When they wrote it down, they didn't really know what they were looking at.
Right. And how would we know? Like, there's this such a good point you brought up. Two things I want to bring up. I have beautiful skies, but yesterday I woke up really pissy. I was having a really day yesterday.
We all do Merkaba messed up your skies.
Right. And I literally had to go drop my son off in the morning, and I had told a million people I don't see chemtrails anymore. But that day, I literally saw chemtrails all over, and I was like, oh my gosh, I shifted to 3D. No, get out of here. Right. Get out of here real quick. But I don't see chemtrails any other time. It was just really interesting. I was in such a pissy mood yesterday, and then I saw them, and I was like, oh, great. But another thing that I tell people all the time is I read a book right before my awakening. It was by Dean Koontz, so it's a work of fiction. It's not based in reality. But it's a fascinating book, and I think anybody who wants a good read right now, it's well worth it. It's well worth it. And it's called The Taking. But what he talks about is exactly what you kind of hit on. What would it look like to us? Let's just say God came back, okay? What would that look like to us? Because God would have technologies outside of anything that we understand. There would be, you know, we wouldn't be able to understand with our human mind and what we have reference to what we were seeing. And so it was really fascinating to me with this book, and it was all about how some people just were taken off into the sky, even through ceilings. Like we saw people levitated just literally right up where they stood. But what happened on the earth was that it seemed like an alien boat takeover, and it didn't look like a good one. But there were people that went around that they just had this calling. They had this compelling ability that they wanted to save the children in this book. And so these dogs would come up to them with this almost telepathic ability, and they would lead them to these groups of children. And at the very end, what happened was, I'm not spoiler, so don't listen. Exit out. Put some earmuffs if you don't want to hear the ending. But these dogs would take them around, and they developed, and they found these groups of children. Those are the people who survived in the end because they were trying to help others than themselves. And in the very end, there was this message that at the space station, right before it got cut off in the book, somebody at the space station actually was able to get out the aliens, you could hear what they were saying, and then she was able actually able in the very end of the book to translate it. And it was God. It was part of the Bible. It was a part of the Bible at the very end, and it ended up being God had come down. It was rapture, but it didn't look anything like what we thought of, is my point, of the rapture. And so you have to, like, I love the Fifth World. She's got a lot of that stuff going on. Check out her videos, and she shows these amazing anomalies in the sky. In fact, she had this amazing video, I want to say it was yesterday, called Starship. It looks like the sun, but it's not the sun. I mean, there were so, like you said, there were so many things happening, like right in front of us, that we almost have no reference to. We don't know what to make of it because we've never seen anything like it. But I'm just saying, like you were saying, don't go into it with a fear base. Choose to go into it with this, no matter what happens, I'm going to go out and love. I'm going to go out trying to help other people, and then just be surprised by how amazing your world takes off in that instance, not only physically, but energetically and spiritually as well, because this is a process that is so multifaceted. We just have no reference to it in anything that we've encountered before.
It's like with childlike wonder.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a child, you're not putting judgments on it. You're just exploring. And I find myself in that state, you know, as I'm seeing these things and these anomalies, and I enjoy it more. And children, they don't have fear. You know, it's us that when they play in the street that go running to get them out of the way of the car. You know, they just don't think like that. But we want to be safe children, so let's not go play in the freeway and do crazy stuff. But I mean, if we look at this with childlike eyes, then we will allow the wonder and amazement and the beauty to glean through, and be more accepting of it rather than rejecting of it.
Right. Exactly. And it's not easy to do when you're talking about your physical, body. Because we've been taught and brainwashed our whole life. If you have a problem with your physical body, you go to your doctor, he gives you a pill, he cuts it out. Those are pretty much the only options within Western medicine, right?
Right.
And so, boom, you're done. But now, I mean, we're seeing things within our physical bodies that our doctors have never trained for. And so they don't know what the F to do with that. They just literally don't know what to do with that. And so we have a lot of people facing, so many people went to the hospital, I would say, with respiratory issues or heart palpitation issues in late 2016, 2017, and the doctors didn't know what to do with that other than do an EKG. It's normal, and send them home, but then they're still left with, well, what just happened, and then that's not counting. I do have a lot of people reach me when they're in that fear place, because really, like you said, when you start looking at this physical process, you only get led to a few things. Thank goodness I'm one of them now. But in the beginning, there wasn't even a me to be out there. And so just led to this terrifying place that you're just like, what do I do with this now? What do I do?
Yeah, and so if you accept what the doctor tells you and with what we understand and we know, if you accept that, then you just accepted that program and you're going to play it out. And that's a big part of this.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just...
Oh, please, because you're exactly right. You're exactly right. I was trying to get something off my screen, like some stuff popped up on my screen. But no, you're exactly right. When we accept that, we do accept the programming. And so that's why it's so important that your channel's here, my channel's here. So many of us support each other so that we can get this to the mainstream, because so many people in the mainstream aren't there yet. That's the unfortunate reality. They're still stuck with the distractions of politics and, you know, all the other crap, you know, staying on the hamster wheel, stuck in there. I have people that I love in my physical reality that we all do, right, that just aren't quite there yet. And it's like we have to keep pushing it out there because they need to understand this, because they will get there at some point really soon. I really feel like, and I don't know how you feel, I would love to know your thought process on this, but I really feel like October is a big month. And I feel like some big dominoes, they're about ready to fall.
Yeah, I've gotten that feeling. Actually, I've gotten a feeling of like another huge wake up, like what happened 2015, 2016 for 2018. And I really feel that if we get, you know, if we get to the 51 percentile on the heart-based thinking with our heart rather than the hive mind, will outweigh and will tip those scales. So, and then what'll happen is the hive mind or programmed or running program, though, that will start to dissipate because we will, you know, we'll be manifesting these things around, and then they will reap the rewards, and they will come along, and then the truth, the light will shine in that darkness, and they will come out of it, and I don't think it's going to be that long. I mean, okay, when I say I'm not saying it's gonna happen in a twinkle of an eye in any second now. There's work to be done, and we're all, you know, holding our positions and doing what we can to bring people the information to knock the fear out, the fear mongering and hellfire and condemnation, and, you know, you're gonna die from this illness, and you know, all of that needs to just be put on the shelf. Old information, catalog it, fine, but let's just go and say that's non-useful information. And let's let the truth, because I couldn't let the truth come in until I got that old stuff out. It had to be purged out. Now, I went through with the Holy Spirit baptism and held on to Christ, and He led me through. But I'm telling you, when it's in the Bible too, when He says He sets you free, you're free indeed. It's a freedom that I can't even comprehend. You know, I mean, it's beyond, and I fall still. Oh my gosh, I fall still. But I mean, He's within. He's not, I didn't need to seek from Him without. He's within each and every one of us. So there's no place to go to find Him. He's inside of you. All we are is sounding boards to let you know to not be afraid of the very abilities and gifts you were born with that have been programmed. Have been programmed, and we're popping out of that programming, and we're becoming like Neo, the one. We're all the one, but one heart, not one hive mind. The mind, it can be cruel to people. People, when they don't think with a heart base, they can be very cruel and brutal to people. And when you're thinking heart based, that cruelty is just not there. You just don't want to hurt anybody. It's a renewing of the mind,
right,
in the heart.
Right. I love what you said. It's so on point, and people need to be so aware of that, because it just, once you have opened that door, like, you will fall down. All of us have moments, and I think some people have like a lot of people write to me and say you have to have a vegan raw diet to be showing what you show. You have to be, you know, doing everything right, and it's like, I don't do everything right. I don't. But what I do is each day I reaffirm the intention that I will go out and love, and that I will help everybody else as much as I can in that process. And that's what I stick to, you know, and that's all you can do. Does anybody in the chat have any questions?
Oh my God. I told you, Toni. I'm looking at the chat right now.
It was so fast, right?
But did you know we're 2 minutes to an hour already. So, okay, you guys, if you guys have any questions for Toni, please type them in very quickly.
Throw them out. It's all right.
I can't believe it. Well, we got 3 minutes. We started 1 minute late, I think. It's close to being on time, though. You know, really.
It's good. For me, that was fantastic.
But I was kind of giggling because I don't know what we were talking about, but Charles, aka Big Bird, the one operator, went boom shakalaka laka. And apparently that's been a change, but I don't know how. It's not even easy to say it the way that the new way is. Boom shakalaka laka is so much easier to say than boom laka laka laka. I mean, it's like, it's difficult. Why make it harder? Keep it with the shakalaka. So I was giggling at that comment. That's a good. I liked it.
And I would just say for anybody, if they're a little, like, you know, not wanting to come, you know, or they see this later, if you have any questions about, I mean, this, because really everybody has a puzzle piece. And my puzzle piece is bringing forward and trying to help people understand this physical part. I try to help people with the other aspects, but that's my puzzle piece, is the physical part, it seems like, obviously. Mm-hmm. So like I said, check out my channel. If you have any questions, please just let me know. We'll try and do this again more. I was just looking at his.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
It's great. And it's great for us all to get together and support each other's channels, because that's what, you know, if we support each other, it's so huge, because that really, it just confirms each other, and then it just makes people aware of each other, because some people are aware of your channel, not aware of mine, or they're aware of mine and not aware of yours.
Right.
So, you know, it's so important that we come together with everybody right now, and I think that's the big message.
And, you know, there's a group that, you know, Liera was talking about, and, but she's like, well, we can, you know, go there. I'm like, well, that's preaching to the choir. The idea is to help other people that are not quite aware. So, and she giggled, and she's like, yeah, that's right. That's true. It's preaching to the choir. So, I mean, that is a wonderful support. We have an awesome support base there, but it's an outreach, you know, right. It's more to help other people to lose fear and choose love. And we always have a choice. No matter what road that you're on, or you think you're on, or whatever direction you think your life is going, you still have a choice to change your mind at any moment.
And it's free. It doesn't cost anything. And you could try it. If it sucks, then you can go back to what you were thinking. But, you know.
That's right. That's right. But you won't.
And like you said so eloquently, share it with your Facebook. Don't be afraid to share it with people that you normally wouldn't necessarily share it with, because I guarantee you I've started doing that, and people that I thought would never, ever pick up on my stuff are like, thank you, because I thought I was going crazy. You know?
Oh, yeah. I had the one that I was afraid of, to be quite honest, was my mother. She's very logical minded, okay? And she actually watches my stuff. And she sponsored me on Patreon.
Yeah.
Fantastic. She knows the financial situation, so she sponsored me, and so did. Oh, it's just I was just, oh my gosh.
You're doing good work though, and she's
so sweet.
Art space that's like, you're reaching people in such a profound, beautiful way.
My mom is a giver until she has no more to give. I have to kind of tell her to get herself in balance a little bit, you know. We always have to be in balance, because we can't take care of other people or help other people if we're not healthy ourselves.
If our pitcher is empty, we can't give out anything to anybody else. That's true. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Okay, guys. You hold on for just a second. Mute yourself out real quick. Guys, it's going to get a little wonky just for a second.
Love you all.
I want to thank you all for coming, and don't forget, I've got Dark Wolf coming on. We're going to do that reveal of, I'm going to call it the YouTube game, but we've got a lot of things to reveal on the ins and outs and the things that we found going on within YouTube. and the possibilities of who could be doing these things within YouTube to us or for us. And you guys will be really surprised at the findings in that research that we have to present. Make sure you subscribe to Toni, and everything is on in the description box. Also, she'll be on my homepage as one of where I put my guests always. And then, you know, as you'll stay on there and they fall off as new ones come on. So you'll be stuck on my homepage for several months, hun. So get over it. Make yourself at home there.
I'm good. Love it.
All right, guys. Give me 1 second.